Today you're joining me in a Ford Mustang Dark Horse, and we are finally getting a chance to drive a Dark Horse with a 6-speed manual, the TR3160 Tremec manual transmission. Previously, we've only driven the new Mustang with the 10-speed automatic, so I'm really excited to see how this new Tremec gearbox drives. It's the same gearbox that was used in the GT350. It's a fantastic package. It's just so expensive. As tested, this car is probably around $82,000, $83,000. This is a 2024. Pricing has increased a little bit for 2025. We have 500 horsepower from a 5-liter Coyote V8, 418 pound-feet of torque, a 3.73 rear differential. We have a drift brake on this Dark Horse, which is very exciting. We're on the street today, so we're not going to be using that. However, later this week, we are taking this out to the racetrack. We're taking it out to Gingerman Raceway, and we're going to be driving this at the limit, which is very exciting. Today's video, we're going to give you guys some first impressions on this 2024 Ford Mustang Dark Horse with the 6-speed manual. Let's start it up, walk you around it, and we'll take it for a drive. Some menacing graphics there on startup. We have quite a few options in this Dark Horse. There's the Dark Horse Appearance Package, the Performance Package, which is about $5,000. These Recaro seats, which are about $2,000. None of the materials in here scream this being worth $70,000 to $80,000, depending on how you spec it. Everything in here is just kind of cheap plastic. We've got this like plastic-like Alcantara, kind of a similar material to what's in my Ranger Raptor on the dashboard. The faux plastic carbon fiber feels cheap. The shifter feels awesome. I loved this shift knob here. It feels amazing. Really a lot of effort put into the throw. But the rest of the interior, if I'm being honest, is a disappointment for the money. Nothing in here just feels nice. There's quite a bit of rattling from the rear passenger area, like we've seen in another Dark Horse that we've driven. The Recaros are supportive, they're comfortable, but again, they are not heated or ventilated. For the option, I feel like they should be. We get digital gauge clusters here with lots of different options. You can spec this with a Fox Body Mustang digital gauge cluster, which I think is just the coolest. For some reason, this Dark Horse does not have the classic gauge cluster or the SVT Cobra gauge cluster that we had in the Mustang GT a couple weeks ago. You just get the Fox Body 87 to 93. So some differences here between this 24 Dark Horse and the 24 GT that we had a couple weeks ago. Painted in this blue Ember metallic. I think this color combination just looks absolutely phenomenal. The Brembo brakes, the contrasting dark wrapped hood, it all just comes together beautifully. Wide, aggressive stance. Look at these little fender extensions here. Don't seem to be attached entirely, but that's okay. We have Pirelli P0 Trofeo RS tires. One of the, if not the stickiest track tire on the market. Cannot wait to get this out on Gingerman. 315s in the rear, 305s in the front. Really aggressive setup. Rear wing, black matte exhaust tips. I mean, this thing just looks incredible. Let's pop the hood, take a look at the 5-liter Coyote V8. Revs pretty well, sounds fantastic, decent torque, rated for 17 miles to the gallon combined, 14 in the city, 22 on the highway. We just did a pretty extensive road trip in the Mustang GT Auto, and that averaged about 23, 24 miles to the gallon. All right, let's hop behind the wheel, get some initial driving impressions. I've literally just driven this from my house to here. It's about 2 miles. Got a couple shifts in, but on initial impressions, this manual feels awesome. Seat belts, blue, purple, whatever you want to call them. You gotta reach so far back to grab them because this keeper never really keeps them in there. Driving position, excellent. Lots of adjustment with our steering wheel, tilting and telescoping. Pedals, perfectly placed for heel toe. Gearbox, This feels so solid. It has that sweetness, that crispness, but also a lot of resistance. It feels strong and maybe a little bit heftier than what we had in the GT350 in terms of shifter feel. I like that. Steering has been improved in the new Mustangs, the new S650s. A little bit sharper, a little bit more direct. Still not a ton of feel, but so much better than the S550 Mustangs. We have wireless CarPlay, an infotainment system that is either reasonably responsive or pretty laggy depending on the car that you get. I'm not sure if it's through software updates or what, but some of the Mustangs that we've driven have had really laggy screens. Some have been pretty good. This seems to be somewhere in the middle. You can choose your exhaust mode in this screen by pressing this Mustang button. So you have the options between track, sport, normal, and quiet. Quiet is very quiet and track is very loud. We're probably going to leave it in sport for the most of the video today. You can choose primary and secondary colors for your gauge clusters and displays, your ambient lighting. All of that is very neat. Cluster themes, I just have it set to match whatever drive mode we have, and we have a bunch of drive modes. So here's my custom mode, that's the Fox body cluster. Here's what normal looks like. It takes forever for these drive mode animations to go away and for everything to change. There we go, there's normal. Here's sport. Cool. Here is track. Nice linear gauge sweep there that puts the red line right in the middle at 7,500 RPM. Drag strip, look at that. Okay, pretty much the same gauge cluster there, and slippery. And that's basically just the normal cluster. All right, we're gonna start off in custom just because I have that set to suspension in normal, steering in comfort, and exhaust in sport. This does have the Magna Ride dampers, the B&O sound system. The Dark Horse Premium starts at around 72 grand. The regular Dark Horse now about 68. Not a cheap car. That's really my biggest complaint with this new Mustang, is it's just so darn expensive. I feel like they've almost priced themselves out of the competition here. I have a 2023 Camaro SS1 LE that cost almost half of what this is. And in some ways it offers more features. It has heated and ventilated Recaro seats. It has a digital rear view mirror. It still has the magnetic dampers. It's down a little bit on horsepower, but not by much. It offers a very similar driving experience. It's a hardcore track package. I am really liking this manual though. Easy to rev match, easy to drive smoothly, and if you love the sound of a Coyote V8, this is the way to go. I feel like sometimes the 10-speed auto in these cars sounds like a CVT because it's just constantly shifting and moving up and down that power band. That's not the case when you have control of your own gears, and there's only 6 gears instead of 10. It's pretty chilly out this morning, 54 degrees Fahrenheit, well under the ideal operating temperature for these Trofeo RS tires, so we are going to take it a little bit easier in the beginning of this drive until those tires get a chance to warm up. You have auxiliary gauges over here, track apps, launch control, brake performance, shift indicator, acceleration timer, drift brake, you can turn that on. Still not a fan of this screen. The responsiveness, the ability for it to kind of estimate where you're touching is definitely lacking. Would appreciate more physical buttons and controls instead of everything just being in menus. super stable around a corner. Almost 7,000 RPM there. Oh, it sounds so good. Ford's done such a good job tuning this exhaust. It sounds absolutely amazing. Tires, quiet at speed. Wind noise, not too bad. We get adaptive cruise control here. Look at that, in a manual Mustang. That's one feature that I don't get in the Camaro. Can you downshift? Yes, you can. Nice. Good following distance settings. 1 of 4. And I assume this is a speed limiter. Yeah. I have that in my Ranger Raptor. Neat feature to have. Honestly, for how hardcore of a track package this is, it's pretty comfortable with the Magna Ride dampers and pretty livable with the NVH on the highway. The 3-hour drive out to Gingerman isn't going to be bad. I'm feeling a little bit of tram lining from those 305 front tires, kind of following the grooves of the concrete highway here, but for the most part, this is pretty livable. Alright, let's go into sport mode. This should give us a little bit better throttle response. Suspension's going to go into sport, so that'll stiffen up slightly, especially around corners. Let's see what this sounds like at redline. Pretty hard fuel cut there right before 7,500 RPM. Thought I had another 100 RPM or so to shift. Doesn't sound as exciting as the GT350, but it is torqueier. And I just love this shifter. It's so direct, so just solid. It feels like you can really bang gears in this thing. I have not driven the Mustang GT with the MT82, so I cannot compare it to that, but right here, right now, this Tremec feels fantastic, as you would hope and expect it to. Sport mode, throttle response is a little bit more of an on-off switch. That's to be expected. On track. Much more linear. Good. Yeah, fuel cut is actually before redline, about 250 RPM before redline. That's a bit strange to see that graphic. Redline really hits at about 7,250. So you just have to kind of shift around $7,000, and I think that'll put you in the right spot. But that is misleading for attack. Gosh, even in track mode, the suspension feels awesome. there's a little bit of a clutch delay valve or something between shifts. Something that's kind of dampening that shock through the drivetrain if you're just kind of banging through gears. Alright, now let's go into track mode around this corner here. Oh. Brakes feel awesome. Nice initial bite, good feel. Again, these are some first driving impressions. The more time I spend with this car, the more I'll be comfortable behind the wheel. We'll get into a rhythm, get into a flow on a racetrack with it, see how it does. Here in Metro Detroit, here in Southeast Michigan, usually there is a pretty strong Ford presence. And I'll be honest, I have not seen a lot of new Mustangs about, especially dark horses. I've only seen a handful. And those could have also just been manufacturer plated cars too. I don't know how well these things are selling, and it has to be down to the price. We just had a fully loaded BMW M2 with a carbon roof. It was manual, it had every conceivable option, and that was the same price as this. Everything in this class is getting more expensive. All of the other V8 manual contenders are out for now. Hopefully they bring them back someday, but I guess that's kind of how Ford feels that they can charge whatever they want for this thing because it is the only player left in the game. Dynamically, this is an improvement over the S550. Interior-wise, tech-wise, feature-wise, I don't really think it is. This interior just doesn't feel representative of the price point. But if you're a second owner, if you're getting one of these with a bit of a discount, you find one that's been sitting on a lot for a little while, might be a decent deal. Until then, though, I would be hard-pressed not to go out and get a Camaro SS1LE or an S550 Mach 1. I thought the S550 Mach 1 was just fantastic. It was just about perfect. It was a great price. Kind of sat in that $50,000, $60,000 sweet spot. Used, you could still get them for that, if not a little bit less. It sounded fantastic. The dynamics weren't far off of what this car can do. For $30,000 to $40,000 less money, I think that'd probably be the way to go until prices on these come down. Aha, another Mustang behind us, though it's a convertible. See a lot of those around here. Track mode, bumpy pavement. It rides awesome. It definitely gives you the muscle car fizz. And I have no doubt that this is the most capable Mustang ever. I assume some of that is just down to the tire itself. These Trofeo RSs are an incredibly grippy, fast tire. Oh, I love the throttle response in track mode. I would actually maybe daily this in track mode just because the throttle response is so linear. So easy to control. driving experience. It's always that 2-3 little sidestep in a Mustang. That little bit of instability in a straight line. You see it at Cars and Coffee. You experience it randomly when you're driving this thing. It's always a bit unpredictable. And it's the only reason why I leave traction control on in these cars. All right, guys, those are some first driving impressions on the 6-speed manual Mustang Dark Horse. If you want the most engaging Mustang driving experience, this is it. If you want the only 6-speed manual V8 muscle car experience on the market, this is it. Yeah, the Tremec 6-speed is great. I love what Ford did here with the tuning. You guys know my thoughts on the price. I think it's too expensive. Go out, get yourself a GT350 with some warranty left, or a Mach 1, and that would be money better spent. But until pricing comes down on these a little bit, maybe you can find a second-hand deal. This is just too much money for what you're getting. It's essentially the same experience as you were getting in the S550 Mustangs, the performance-oriented ones. The steering is better. A little bit more power. The gearbox feels really solid. To me, if I'm being honest, I still prefer my Camaro SS1LE. Pricing completely aside. Let's say money doesn't even exist and you had to choose between the cars, I would still take my Camaro SS1LE. So, you know, the car's not being made anymore. So if you want something brand new, that's an irrelevant argument, but it's something to consider, and just how well developed and how good the Camaro was. And I feel like Ford needs to continue to work on this Mustang just a little bit. We need a faster infotainment screen. We need some nicer interior materials in here. Everything is either just plastic or fake carbon fiber or fake Alcantara. There isn't really any like genuine material in here except for maybe the leather on these seats and the Alcantara on these Recaros, which are fantastic. They're very nice seats, but they're not heated or ventilated. There's just some stuff here that feels like it's missing, and when you factor in the price, it's almost like offensively expensive, I think. So let's walk you guys around this one more time. The new Dark Horse drives awesome. I love the manual, so high marks for that. If you can swing the 80 grand or whatever you're going to end up paying for one of these things, then go for it. It's a great driving experience, but for my money, I would spend it elsewhere. We're going to do a B&O sound system test also after we're done walking you guys around this. Stay tuned for the track test. Stay tuned for some other videos coming out on this Dark Horse from TORSEN Drives and Winding Road. Look how low this front splitter is. It's already seen a little bit of drama, but being a plastic piece, I assume it's pretty cheap to replace. These wheels look fantastic. 19s, filled up completely with brakes. Proper hardware for a proper muscle car / track car. We never really showed you guys the trunk. There it is. Yeah, there's room for a compact spare tire, but I've always loved how practical the Mustang is. Neat little Easter egg here showing each generation. All right, let's test out this B&O and cruise for a little bit, and that'll be wrapping this video. Oh, there's the long reach in the back. CarPlay's pretty responsive. That's good. We've got a volume knob right down here. Here's your reverse camera, no 360 cam. Is decent. It's not amazing. It's probably on par with the Bose in my Camaro. All right, that's gonna be a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.